how is the balance between, hitting it professionally, succeeding, and obviously balancing that with your very young family? How's it coming along?
Yeah, I think probably the answer will probably change day to day. So I don't think I get it right
Mm,
all the time, but I think you got to find what works for you, right?
mm,
I think it's hard to just say, okay, family first, and family trumps everything, because that is the truth. But it's probably not that simple to say it that way. I think
mm.
firstly, one thing I've always realized is you spend more time working than you do with your family, right? So, you're at work 40 hours plus commute, all those things, right? You don't actually get that many hours with your wife and kids every week. So
Very true.
it's a bit scary when you think of it that way. But
Mm,
so, and then on top of that, I think my wife and I are big believers that you have to be happy at work to be happy at home, right? So if you're not, if you really hate your job,
well said.
you're trudging out the door, and you're stressed, and you're fighting at work. Well, maybe just the two of us, we're not good at compartmentalizing that and then walking in the door and leaving everything at work. So I think bringing being fulfilled outside the family with friends and work
Mm,
makes us better people to come back into the family, and kind of interact with each other in a loving way. And then I think the last bit of a mundane reality is that you need, money makes the world go round, right? So you have to work. We don't we're not lucky enough to not have to work. So you've got bills to pay, school fees, car rego, mortgage in Sydney, all of these things, right? So
I think the mortgage in Sydney is probably another topic altogether. We'll save that
yeah,
for podcast two.
we'll save that for another podcast. Yeah. So in order to be able to do all of that, the reality is in this day and age, you kind of need to work, and to work in a way that kind of fulfills your life in another way. So I think everything I do is for my wife and kids, and to kind of make sure that they're, we as a family are provided for, but it's important that you get the work part right. Absolutely.
Very interesting point about being happy at work means that when you do bring it back home, you are actually a happier individual. And when you come home, you're in a more positive state than as opposed to someone who hates it, soul crushing. It just inevitably leads into the family office, so to speak, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. There've been periods of my life where I've, not been happy at work, and I've not been a great person at home, or really, if I push it too hard at work, I think I was in a job where, the kids were young and I was working crazy hours. And what that meant was, I'd work crazy hours during the week, and then I'd sleep it off on Saturday, Sunday. So I wasn't getting out of bed till 9, 10 on a Saturday and Sunday. So that just meant I even had less time, with the kids on the weekend. So, I think, the pressure and stuff at work also impacts the time, and, your own physical exhaustion in order to
Point.
spend with your family.
Because if you're clocking 10, 11, 12 hours days, for example, you're absolutely knackered on the weekend, eh?
Yeah, these were probably 17, 18 hour days at times. And I was just not myself on the weekend. It was a zombie.
And you made a good point about whether Claire and yourself can sort of compartmentalize it, so to speak, in the sense of that's work, we come home, that's family. Is that how you guys approach it, or you're sort of seeing it a bit muddled?
No, I think it has to be muddled. I think for both Claire and I, when we walk in the door, there's a decompressing time. That 20 minutes, half an hour, where you've got to have a shower, whatever your little routine when you walk in the door. I think if you've had a really shocking day and you come in, and the kids don't realize that. Kids, they're just going to run at you and
You want to
they
see
want to
daddy.
get past that. They want to, exactly. They've missed you too. So it is hard, but invariably, you know, I have a longer commute, so at least during my commute I try and decompress. But if you catch a bus in Sydney, that's probably stressing you out even more as well. So you get home and get off the bus, you battle the bus, and then after that you've got to try and decompress as well.
Because in addition to getting to the office where you need to be on your A game, when you come home, you also going to need to be on your A game, but obviously in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. It was probably harder during lockdown and homeschooling, because you're in and out of calls and the kids are here, and you're just kind of all through the day, you're balancing time, but you're kind of shifting in and out of work mode the whole time. And that transition those transitions are really fast, as opposed to kind of you leave the house, you go through your routine, and you go have your coffee before you go to work, and all those transitions are there. You kind of build those into your day to get yourself ready. When I was working, on days I work from home, I've got a 1-minute commute, right, or 20-second commute. So you don't have those same routines to get yourself in and out of work mode.
Interesting. And how do you sort of decompress after a long day?
I try and do exercise for me. Claire once told me ages ago, motion processes emotion.
Motion
So
processes emotion. Lovely.
yeah. So that's a good one. So yeah, I try and on my commute back from the office, try and go for a run. Again, if you're stuck in traffic, if you're catching a bus for 40 minutes, my run is probably about 50 minutes. So I've gotten my exercise and my commute out in the same sort of time. And that's some great time. Try not to listen to music. Just try and
Just focus on the road.
focus on the road, and just let your mind wander, right? So for me, I see that in my son as well. I think that time just by yourself, decompressing your brain, letting it all compartmentalize, unpack the day, just then I kind of come back home and I'm in a much better state to kind of deal with.
Oh, wow. So you actually do the run after you finish work. So when you
Yeah,
get home, you decompress. So when you get through the door, you're feeling in a much better state.
yeah, yeah.
Nice.
And I'm probably, sweaty and stinky. So that gives me 5 minutes when I'm in the house to have a shower. And then that way no one wants to come near me too much. So then you
Because
get
you're
that,
on afterwards.
you get that 10 minutes to have a shower, and then you're back ready to go.
It sounds very clockwork in a way, but it has to be, doesn't it?
I know. We're going away in 2 weeks. Claire and I and our parents-in-law are looking after the kids, and we wrote down the list of what we do every week, and it kind of is regimented, and kind of this is what happens at this time of day. But I think with 2 kids that go to different schools, Claire works, I work, activities after school. It's just all, life has to be a bit clockwork to make it all work at the moment.
So do you still believe in work-life balance, or is it very much work-life integration now? Or is there something else?
I think it's integration. I don't think balance works for us. I don't think, yeah, I don't. I think we've just given up trying to find balance, right? Because where do you draw that line? What do you call balance? I think integration and making sure we have time, and being present with the kids, and making sure that you make sure that life is integrated into work. So Tuesdays, I'll work a shorter day, make sure I pick up the kids, spend time with the kids, take my son to soccer, and then also just making sure that we've got time for the kids through the week as well. So making sure life is integrated into, because I don't think you'll ever find the perfect balance. So yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, Claire and I really ever bought into the balance, because I think you're always searching for something that's not there.
You had time for yourself.
Yeah, I think I
I mean, really a good 1 hour, 2 hours, for example, maybe on a Sunday morning, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's just you. Do you have that?
yeah, I've built it into my life now. So you know, I I used to be a really bad coffee addict, right? Like drinking way too much coffee. And then I went to a retreat earlier in the year, and one of the things that they said was, you know, make sure if you're going to have coffee, enjoy it, right? So for me, coffee is a bit of a passion, and I can just sit there drinking coffee all day. But I limit myself to 2 coffees a day. But the reason I say it is I now don't drink takeaway coffee, right? Because takeaway coffee, you're not consciously drinking it.
Oh, you're just like boom.
You're just bang. You know, you're doing something and you're just drinking a coffee and you're just giving yourself a caffeine hit, without actually enjoying what you're doing. So
Good point.
now,
Good point.
when I sit and you know, when I have a coffee, I make a point. I have it in. I like good coffee, so I'll go sit down and then enjoy it. For me, Saturdays, Sundays, I'll duck out of the house for a bit.
Nice. By yourself or
By myself,
brilliant?
and make sure I have time for that coffee and sit down and just enjoy it. And you know, that time I need that because I'm an introvert underneath it all, so I need that time by myself to kind of decompress. So yeah, that time. And then, you know, before work, I start early. I start at 5:30. I spend an hour just by myself at my desk here, and prepare for the day. And then
Nice.
invariably also before work most days, I'll have a coffee by myself for a good, you know, 15-20 minutes to get going. So I try and make
And that's quality time, really, isn't it?
yeah, I think the early starts for me, you know, I think in my job, I get booked into a lot of meetings. And then so I'll find that, you know, 9 till 5 is just meetings and I have no time to really do my own work and do my own thinking. So, you know, I've only started this about, you know, 6 months ago, but having that time, that hour to myself every day helps me, you know, prioritize, helps me think about you know, what I want to do, and just helps me be much more considered in what I do.
Yeah, I wake up ridiculously early on the weekend just to get at least, at a minimum, 1 hour to myself.
Yeah, yeah. My son is up early, so I've given up trying to get up earlier than him. So you know, I just have to duck out. That's the only way to do it. Yeah.
Has to be done, right? So,
Yeah.
so you mentioned Claire and yourself making sure that you guys are present for your kids.
Yeah.
Do you have that? Or does your mind sort of wander? It's natural, right?
Yeah, look, we went to a parenting course and they said, you know, just never aim for perfection. You know, 66%, 67%, you know, 2/3 of the time, that's all you got to strive for. And so I think 2/3 of the time we probably do it. So look, I think the hardest part is, you know, for me personally, is my phone that stops me being present.
Oh, your phone.
My phone, my handheld, you know, so having my phone in my hand, and you know, it's easy to make an excuse of there's just this email, there's just
This one
this
time.
Slack, just this call. I've just got to take this call. I've just got to, you know, respond to this Slack, respond to this email. I've just got this meeting. So, you know, it's very easy to fall into that habit. And then, you know, 1 minute you're checking your Slack, the next, you know, you're on Instagram, you know, in front of your kids and not being present. So, you know, it's not an easy thing to do, but you know, we have a rule of no phones at the table.
Nice.
So, you know, nothing there. And then just little things like, you know, we don't charge our phones by bed anymore. You know,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So
Nice switch.
yeah. So charge the phone in the lounge room, bought an old school, you know, alarm clock because I had made the excuse that I needed an alarm. So I bought an alarm clock, and just really, you know, trying to put limits, you know, or kind of set boundaries around, you know, when I use my phone, and you know, making sure, you know, before school on a Tuesday, I'll have a coffee with my daughter.
Nice.
So you know, make sure that when I get out of the car to have that coffee, I'll leave my phone in the car. So I don't, you know, you don't need that phone with you, because otherwise, again, there's just that temptation to quickly, instead of just looking at the person opposite you, because the thing about a 4-year-old is she's always just staring at you. She's always looking for that connection and that interaction. But
if dad is basically on this
doing
the
that
whole time, then
then it breaks your heart. So yeah, I think definitely
good reminder.
Trying to make sure that you be present, so don't do that. And then making sure, again, Claire and I, you want to have an adult conversation, but the kids are around, right? So how do you do that, right? So how do you balance that conversation and balance that relationship with
how do you do that? Because my wife and I have that same challenge as well.
I think we went to another parenting course where they kind of said, look, you don't actually need, just because a child wants your attention doesn't mean you have to give it to them right away, right? You don't want to be just subservient to your kid, because that's not natural for them either. They can't just expect to walk into any conversation and shut a conversation down and take over it, right? But so just making sure that you kind of say, okay, look, mom and dad are having a conversation, we're going to be 5 minutes, give us 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll have, we'll check, we'll have the conversation with you, right? So I think being able to do that and not just allow that, because that then means you and Claire can finish off your conversation properly, instead of just always, sorry, not you and Claire, hopefully you and Claire aren't having that many conversations. Me and Claire can finish that, and then but I think the key thing is making sure you remember, and that's probably where we don't remember, we fail. Make sure you remember to go back to the kid, right? You say, okay, park it, but then it's on you.
You got to come back.
You got to come back to them.
Good
you
point.
don't come back to them,
Good point.
then you just let them down, and you made a promise. So I just started this thing a couple of weeks ago of getting my son to get. We got one of those Google Assistants at home, so he sets a timer on that Google Assistant. So at least that helps me remember. He thinks it's for him, but it's more for me to help me remember.
Sorry, how does that work? Like your son?
I'll say, give me 5 minutes, and he'll go set a 5-minute timer on the Google. So he'll just say, hey, Google, set a 5-minute timer. So when that 5-minute timer goes, it also helps him not come and interrupt us within 5 minutes, because he's got no idea of time. So if you say, give me 5 minutes, minute later, he's coming back saying, are you done with that conversation? I want to ask you a question again, right? So if you do need 5 minutes, then at least the timer will help him realize, okay, the timer hasn't gone off yet. Now I've heard him lately go back and ask how long left on the timer. So at least now Google's doing it. I'm outsourcing some of that to Google.
What about an old school clock that has the hands? That's what my wife and I do.
I think with my older one that works. With my younger one, she's only 4, so she's not telling time yet. And again, it means you have to educate them on, okay, the time is this now, in 5 minutes when it's this time. So if you can just say that and they can go, do that, then again,
such
that
cuties.
Time to finish that conversation.
Got it. It's a great initiative that you're going to these parenting courses. Good on you guys, yeah.
I'll take 0% of the credit, and I'll give that 100% to Claire. So Claire, yeah, I think we had the circle of security. I think
I did that too.
Yeah, I highly recommend that one. That was brilliant. That was a great one, and we've taken a lot of the principles out of that. And I think the other one was conscious parenting, which is a great one, and something that Claire and I really believe in.
Great initiative, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to. The good thing about circle of security is that's where we learn. Okay, you don't have to be perfect 100% of the time, right?
Good point.
Being a parent is 2/3 of the time. More often than not, you're making the right decision, but you're gonna screw up. So it's okay.
And with the circle of security, it's about sort of you're sort of the home base.
Yeah.
Your son and daughter will explore.
Yeah.
And then come back to you.
Yeah.
And you just got to make sure you're there to receive them when they come back. It's a great concept, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, clearly as they grow up, that phase of going out and coming back just, but I think even if you look at your own life, you're always at some stage coming back to your parents, in some shape